And thank you for joining us and spending a few minutes with us. We received a couple questions over the last 24 hours or so we will answer them as is our practice. The first question was about I forget the exact term, the California End of Life Act, I think is something similar to that. It's essentially, should people be allowed to choose how they end their own lives? Can you get prescriptions from a doctor for drugs that can end your life when you're at that stage? And as a firm believer in your body, your choice, it's your body, it's your choice. Of course you have that right. Of course you have the right to determine how and exactly when your life is over. There are concerns about people being forced into it or coerced into it, and that's actually not my concern. My personal concern is that someone who is depressed because of a condition and is not being properly treated decides before they otherwise would have. It's not the pressure, it's the internal pressure that concerns me. But you don't deal with that with regulations. You don't deal with that with bureaucracy. You don't deal with that with restrictions. What you do is you deal with that with awareness for families and doctors and patients. Because I can imagine myself, you've given 5 months to live. I say, I want to live the next 6 weeks as good as I can and then not put my family or myself through the worst of it. I can view myself wanting to make that choice. Don't know that I would, but I can view myself wanting to have that option. I can also understand people who want to go to the very end and, want to live every possible day they can. And that's also very reasonable. And it sure in the hell isn't for politicians to inject themselves in that decision. That's between families and physicians. And it's just that simple. The other question we received was someone asked me to tell me a bit about myself. And we've done this before, but it's been a while. So I was born and raised here in Sacramento, graduated from John F. Kennedy with what might be an all-time low in attendance rate and still graduating on time. It was like 48%, something like that in that nature. I never fit into the traditional educational environment. I didn't know at the time that I had an anxiety disorder, and sticking me in a school with 1,000 other kids is fundamentally a bad idea. And so, I managed that difficulty by skipping school. But I didn't skip education. I was lucky. My stepfather was a science teacher at Burbank, and he was also helped at researching at UC Davis, and I got to interact with a absent-minded professor, and he taught me how to use a scientific process to educate myself, which is why I was able to get through school, only going part-time essentially. And then, I started washing dishes at my family's restaurant, Nicole's Omelets. Some people have contacted me about asking if I was the person who owned it. No, that was my father. But I did wash dishes there, bust some tables, help with food prep, that kind of thing. And that's kind of, set my life on. At 14, I washed dishes in the family restaurant. I think at 16, I washed dishes at the Parisi's, which was down the street from my house. At 18, I worked at Shakey's Pizza. None of those places exist anymore, but, that's how life goes. And then after that, it was a bunch of warehouse work, working on assembly lines, and raising my family. And trying to manage that way through life with an undiagnosed anxiety disorder. About 15 years ago, as things tend to happen, life fell apart. And the anxiety disorder was catastrophic. I could barely leave my house to go down to the store and buy food for my kids. But through the love of family, community, and a lot of hard work, I've built myself up to something that my family can be proud of. My ex-wives seem to be supportive of this journey, and my community is the one who asked me to do this. And so that journey has a value. The journey of falling on my face and picking myself back up and having the courage to ask for help along the way. You learn. Of all the things I've done, the one thing that actually leads directly to this task of being an assembly member is that journey through Anxiety disorder makes me empathetic, makes me a better listener. You can't always do something for somebody, but you can help them be heard. And sometimes, someone feeling heard can take a lot of pressure off of politics. They just want to be heard. And if you have to tell them, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but here's why we have to do it this way. You won't like it, but they'll accept it. Because you've heard them. Because you understood where they were coming from. And it's that skill that is lacking in today's politics. We no longer try to empathize with people who disagree with us. We demonize them, dehumanize them. Most people want what's best for their society, their community, their families, themselves. And so if there's a disagreement, there's a reason for it. There's competing moralities, and we seem to forget that two people can view the same subject from a different morality state while both being very moral. You've just decided on a different moral stone to stand on. And the reason we have politics is so you can discuss that without hating each other. Because we all see what happens when that happens. All you have to do is look around. I'm here to change things. I'm here to change the way we think. I'm here to change the way government thinks. And I'm here to change the way voters think about their representatives. For too long now, people have used the representatives as leaders. Representatives are not leaders. We're not. We're followers. We listen and we follow. And that's what we're supposed to do. So thank you for your time. I know that didn't give you a lot of information into me, but it does help you get where I'm coming from, hopefully. That is someone who has been on the outside essentially his entire life and didn't understand why until recently. I can help. I can help connect people who feel disconnected because I was once one of them. I can help people, gig workers, who don't understand how to gather together in groups because they're naturally independent. I can help them. I can help the average person who doesn't care about politics, just wants problems dealt with as best as they can be. Most people are tired of promised utopias. What they want is the cold, hard reality. Yeah, it's not pretty. The budget for filling potholes was a lot less sexy than a budget for building a nice brand new building, but the potholes are more important. Thank you for your time. Good night, and love everybody.